And welcome back, everyone, to the Pokemon Team Creation Series. Last time, what am I doing? I'm in my Dragon Ball Z voice. Last time on the Dragon Ball Z What If. No. Uh, Pokemon Creation Series. From Eric, we have Raven. I've gone through all the Teen Titans now. We've done Cyborg, Starfire, Beast Boy, Robin, and now Raven. So, Raven was like a 50-50 split. Half of her team was easy to figure out. The other half I had to work on a bit. Now you might think immediately, well, why not have a Corviknight as her main Pokemon? Corviknight here is on the team, definitely. He's the only thing that comes close to an actual Raven, though I believe he's supposed to. Is he supposed to be a crow or a raven? He's obviously like a knight, because you got Corvisquire, Rookidee, and then Corviknight. And Corvo, I believe, is the genus of bird that ravens and crows fall into. I think, though, he's supposed to be a raven because Murkrow exists as a crow. Okay. But no, her main ace is actually Mega Gardevoir. Let's try that again. Is actually Mega Gardevoir. Why Mega Gardevoir? Well, first of all, bonding with being her ace means that it'd probably be the one she has the most affection for and most bonding with. But more to the point, also, they can create black holes. Gardevoirs are powerful as hell. I like the idea of the transformation from Mega Evolution to this kind of white robe being a reference to White Raven. But Gardevoirs and in fact, the entire Ralts line are less so Gallade, are empathic Pokemon. They are highly susceptible to emotions and are attracted to people with positive emotions. Raven herself is a highly capable, highly powerful empath. In fact, take out the black telekinetic energy construct she makes, her main powers are actually empathy. Or empathy, if you will, in manipulation of emotions, feeling emotions. She actually has to keep her emotions in check, otherwise her darker sides can come out. Speaking of which, I had to have a Trigon representation on this team. And what better way than the only Pokemon I can think that works here, a Dark Fairy type, the fairy to represent the good part of Raven, the dark side to represent the evil of Trigon, and Grimmsnarl. Specifically, I went with Gigantamax. This Grimmsnarl would have a Gigantamax form. Now, mind you, it is still just a Grimmsnarl at its core. Only if she's using it in, say, like a Dynamax battle would that actually work. But the design of Gigantamax Grimmsnarl is a very imposing, very evil looking. I mean, look at that thing. Look at that thing. That is beast. So and Trigon is a huge humanoid demon. And he's actually technically not a demon. He became a demon. It's very weird where Trigon actually is. He is a demon, but not quite. Anyway, so after that did get a little bit trickier. Now, the last Pokemon I put on the team was Ditto. Why Ditto? Well, Ditto is really just to represent the fact that one of her closest relationships is with Beast Boy. Particularly, Beast Boy is someone she has been legitimately romantically linked with in the comics. In fact, I believe they once got married until that got retconned out. Not only just retconned out in terms of like the writers just said, no, that didn't happen. I mean, something happened in the universe to make it non-existent. But Ditto can turn into any Pokemon. Beast Boy turns into any animal he wants. That makes sense. Beyond that, though, the fact is she also has the ability to manipulate her soul and her spirit. I wanted something that could work for that. So I needed a ghost type. Ghost types are spirits, basically. So what works for this? There aren't a lot of Pokemon that can really do something like that, but I went with Fluttermane here. I think it's a feminine looking Pokemon. But B, it's also a ghost fairy type. It's extremely powerful. Apparently, Fluttermane kind of dominates a lot of meta. But it's still a Pokemon I think can really represent Raven in some aspects. Again, a bit more of a dour, mysterious-like appearance, a powerful form to it, really. And again, being a spirit manipulating its physical form. Last but not least, one of the other things Raven can do is teleport and create portals. I threw in the portal Pokemon, well, not the portal Pokemon, but Hoopa. A Hoopa Unbound, though. Why Hoopa Unbound as opposed to just normal Hoopa? Well, to be honest, I think this leans again towards the Trigon influence. This can actually lean more towards the, let's not call it evil Raven, but the negative aspects of Raven's personality. Where you have White Raven, then you have like Demon Raven. So I think that's a good compromise there. And it really gives actually a decently balanced team. You have a fairly powerful I mean, all these Pokemon are good in their own right. Ditto, hell, for God's sake, it's the weakest one here, and it can technically become anything it's fighting. So that's pretty solid also. But I mean, no Mon on this team, I think, has under 450 for base stats. Like even Corviknight has like 490 or something like that. Corviknight is a great Pokemon. So that's her team. How balanced is it? Well, it's actually not that weak. It does have a ×3 weakness to steel types though, because you do have 3 fairies on the team. ×2 weakness to poison for the 2 fairies. Although Fluttermane is actually just neutral to poison, as Ghost type resist poison. But Grimmsnarl and Gardevoir are not saved from that, unfortunately. ×2 weakness to Ghost, as you have a Psychic type and a Ghost Fairy type. But Hoopa Unbound is Dark Psychic, so it's safe. And then you also have where'd you go? Why did I suddenly? Oh, there he is. And then you have a ×2 weakness to Fairy with your 2 Dark types. So there's nothing you can do. Fairy doesn't resist Fairy. But on the flip side of that coin, it's got a ×3 strength against Dragon with your Fairy types. If it weren't for Ditto, it would have, and technically speaking, Ditto gives this team a unique edge because it's got a ×5 strength against Fighting type. This team, because all the Mon have typings that hurt Fighting types. But Ditto can theoretically turn into any type it wants, as long as the respective type is there. ×3 strength against Dark with your Fairy types. With the 2 Psychic types, you got ×2 strength against Poison. With the 2 Ghost types, the 1 Ghost type and 2 Dark types, you have a ×3 strength against Psychic. And you also have a ×3 strength against Ghost with the 2 Dark and 1 Ghost. In terms of how balanced or how well this team does, this is one of the better teams I've made for dealing with regions. Now, right out the gate, though, you cannot become the champion of Sinnoh because you have to start with a Ralts, and Ralts only evolves at 20, and it's just too squishy to go up against Rorik's team. It's just, Geodude, Onix, and then that Crane does hit you once, you're done. Even with having like Psychic moves on your belt there. So there's that. And even if you did somehow manage to get to Cynthia, this team actually would be perfect for dealing with Cynthia. Fairy types are actually a real problem for her team. But because she starts with Spiritomb, which is only weak to Fairy, and her Garchomp, her ace, is also Fairy. You add in the fact that you have a Steel type to handle things like a Roserade, and you have Psychic types to deal with Lucario. The only real problems you kind of deal with are Gastrodon and Milotic, and that's just really because you're neutral, not weak. So you would actually beat Cynthia if you were able to get to her, but you wouldn't be able to get to her. In Kalos, you can't get past Viola. Even her team is so weak that even if you were to gave the 2-level advantage to Ralts, it's just not enough. You're not a Psychic. Bug resists Fairy. I believe it's Bug that resists Fairy. Or no, it's Fairy that resists Bug. But even still, you don't really have any good moves as a Ralts at that point. Once again, though, you could beat Diantha. In fact, Diantha's fairly... Gardevoir alone kind of just tramples on most, if not all, of Diantha's team. Then you can't become champion of Paldea because the bug typing is problematic because Katie starts off with that. And Ralts would just kind of get creamed by that typing, by that entire team. But it's a weird maybe on if you could become champion, because honestly, the bulk of her team is not problematic. But that King Gambit, even though it's not coming out last, that King Gambit is actually extremely problematic. Dark Steel is not a typing that this team is good against. Because the Fairy should be able to handle the Dark, but is resisted by the Steel. And then the Steel, there's nothing on this team that is good against Steel. Your only real option, I'd say, is throw Ditto, wear the damn thing down, and just try to wear the damn thing down then with Corviknight. Because otherwise, you might not get past that thing. All the other stuff, though, you could handle no problem. Avalugg, you can handle with the Corviknight. All the Psychic Mon, you can handle with the Darkmon. You can handle, again, the Go-Goat, no problem, really. So, yeah, only that King Gambit is really that problematic. But it is problematic. I will also say this. In Hoenn, Roxanne would be really tricky, but we've seen people beat Roxanne with a Ralts. So in like playthroughs. So I don't think that's impossible. I don't think that. But I think you stop at Watson. By the time you get to Watson, you will have a Curlia, you will have Corvisquire, and I believe Impidimp doesn't evolve until like the 30s, so you only have Impidimp. It's an electric. Watson's an electric trainer, but unless it's Emerald, he's only got electric steel types. Which means you don't have anything to deal. That Corvisquire goes down immediately. Impidimp is too weak to do anything, and any fairy move you have is no good. So I think you're just done at Watson. Even if you got the Watson, you would not. This team also does not handle steel types well at all. Skarmory alone, you are going to be struggling with. And Skarmory is going to be setting up things like spikes, toxic. Then you also got to deal with freaking Metagross. You got to deal with Aggron, which for the first time in a while, you do not have a good answer for that Aggron. Every other time I've talked about Steven, you usually have a ground type who can learn Earthquake or something on the team. No longer the case in this scenario, which means you are in trouble. The only thing you can maybe do is have Ditto turn into Aggron, but then you're wasting a Transform on it, and it's probably going down after that to an Earthquake, and even if you get an Earthquake off, your stats are not the same as Aggron's. So, you couldn't beat Steven. In Unova, it's kind of a 50-50 split. You would struggle a little bit, I think, with Lenora, even though you'd have type resistance against Crunch. That freaking Watchog hits hard. Also, Berg, somewhat problematic, but still doable. Again, I think you could make it to the champions. Iris is actually pretty easy. She's a Dragon Trainer, so just Mega Gardevoir alone kind of wipes the floor with most of her team. Alder, however, is a problem because while Fairy resists Bug, if you've got Psychic, like Gardevoir does for your typing, you're getting neutral damage from that Bug Buzz. And that Acelgor, even if you Mega Evolve Gardevoir, is way faster than you. That's not even bringing up freaking Escavalier, which you have no advantage over. You have to literally overpower that thing. Meanwhile, it's throwing out Steel and Bug type moves, a lot of which this team is weak against. Steel type moves for your Fairymon, and then for your Dark Psychic type Bug type moves. And that's not even bringing in Volcarona, who if gets off one Quiver Dance, you're done. Straight up done. So, I think you could beat Iris. You would not beat Alder, though. All right, so it seems like I said, this is like one of the better teams I made. Well, it is, because straight out, you could just be the champion of, assuming you get past Brock, and assuming you're not killed by, say, like a Rock Tomb from Brock, from Onyx. But if you get past the first gym, which I think you still can, you can just beat all the trainers here. I don't think there's any trainer that's going to give you a severe problem at all. But I think Koga might be the one trainer that gives you a little bit of a problem just because of some of the weaknesses to poison. But the fact is you have a Mega Gardevoir who would have Psychic at this point. I think you're fine. So, yeah, there's that. Jota's another one where I frankly think it's just a straight yes. Even though Ralts would not be very good against Bugsy, you have Corvisquire at that point, or at the very minimum of a high-level Rookity. So flying moves could take care of him. Honestly, Miltank would probably be your biggest problem, and even then, you can at least get to Curlia, because you can be a little above Miltank at that point. And you might have to go do it a couple of times, but I think you'd get the win off. Everything else, though, you're pretty much sitting easy. Easy. Even Lance is not a problem with a Mega Gardevoir on your team. And even though you still have Fluttermane and a Grimmsnarl, I think you're fine. Then you have Galar. Galar is our last one. And Galar is one where I think it's a maybe. I do think, unlike with some of the other ones, you would struggle in Shield with Alistair, because Ghost is problematic for the level of team you'd have at that point. Impidimp is not even a Morgrim yet, I don't think. And even if it is, it's not fully evolved. Gardevoir is just straight out weak to Ghosts. And Ditto can only kind of do so much. I do think you might struggle on that one a bit. But take that out of the equation. if you are able to get past her, you should be able to handle the rest of these guys no problem. It is Leon that's the issue. And I'll be honest, it's difficult to actually say how this would go. Because if that Aegis Slash gets a legit hit on the Gardevoir, Gardevoir's done. I think more than likely it doesn't go down to Gardevoir. Or, sorry, it doesn't go down to Aegis Slash, but does get hurt. Dragapult comes in, and Dragapult doesn't have a typing advantage. Oh, actually, it does have a typing advantage. I forgot about that, which means it has Shadow Ball, and it outspeeds, and its special attack might not be quite as high as Gardevoir's when it Mega Evolves, but it's strong enough. So I don't think Gardevoir survives Dragapult. At that point, then you do have a bit of a problem. You probably want to go either Fluttermane, Hoopa, or Grimmsnarl. My personal money would be on would probably be on Grimmsnarl, honestly. Hoopa is a legendary, so it's technically your ace. Take away Mega Gardevoir. And don't go Ditto if you can't help it. In fact, technically, you should probably start with Ditto a lot of the time. Because you have to waste a move on transform on that. Now, with that said, Grimmsnarl would still struggle against the Dragapult. It would still struggle, definitely. I'm not saying it couldn't take it down, though. I do think it could probably take it down. It might be on its last legs when you do that, but I think you could take it down. Dragapult will come out, or Haxorus comes out, would just take it out without too much difficulty, I think. And then you're down to the last and so then you got to bring in Fluttermane, who then would take down that Haxorus, no problem, which leads you into his remaining 3 Pokemon. And the problem here is very simple. It all depends on what team he has. You don't have a good answer to the Charizard, which is an immediate problem. But beyond that, if it's the team that starts with Mr. Rhyme, I believe that's the team that uses... Is that the team that uses Rillaboom? Because if that's the team, you might stand a legit shot. But you still got to deal with Charizard, which again, you don't have a good answer for. But if it's either the team with Seismitoad or Rhyperior, first off, you don't have a good answer for either of those two. And second of all, you're now dealing with Inteleon and Cinderace. I bring up Cinderace for a very important reason. That thing hits hard and fast, and while Fairy is not weak to fire, it has no special resistance to fire. Add on the fact your Corviknight is weak to fire. It's a tough one. I think you could beat Leon, but I think it's a strong maybe. Like, there are avenues to beat him, but it would not be easy. Either way, though, that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.